Beliefs are given to us from our families, from our society, from our religious leaders. Beliefs comfort us through the dark, scary night. And since we're creatures of habit and we fear what we don't understand, beliefs can be very comfortable to fall back on. They give us a sense of connection with our family, of belonging to our tribe, so to speak. And even if our family experience wasn't that great, we, in a pinch, still fall back on our family's belief system. Have you ever had the experience of being angry with one of your children, for example, and all of a sudden hearing your mother's voice fly out your mouth? Well, I have, and it's during those times of frustration or anger, when you're just looking for something to make it better, that we do fall back on what our mothers taught us, or our family belief system. It's always kind of shocking to me when that happens every once in a while. Whatever you focus on, you do get more of, and that is a function of the subconscious mind. But it's the ego level of the mind that needs to be right, that feeds on that need to be right. And so it will find references out in the world that will make our beliefs true so that we can validate ourselves. And sometimes that comes in the form of groups of other people out there. Hey, if they have that same belief that I have, then I must be okay, right? The problem is that most beliefs are false and keep us stuck from really opening our mind to the unlimited potential that is us and is available to us. Beliefs that are held in the subconscious mind can keep us from experiencing our life to the fullest level of our innate potentiality, our unlimited potential, to truly live a spiritually based life that's full of joy and prosperity, which is based on a healthy lifestyle, based on growth and learning. We must begin to recognize, we need to be conscious of our beliefs, and we need to start unraveling them. Well, I was attending a spiritual retreat last weekend with a lovely lady who for many, many years has been on a path of spiritual growth and awareness, of becoming truly conscious in her life. In fact, even wrote a book that's called Becoming Conscious, that she had begun to realize that even she at this point still has beliefs that pop up that she takes a step back and takes a look at and has to unravel and discern whether that belief is really true for her today. And in our conversation, we all decided that it's the ego, that's the part of us that holds us back from experiencing the joy and success that we desire, because it's the ego that creates drama, and it needs to be right, and that's how it does that, is by creating drama in order to substantiate its own existence. It's the part of us that feeds on controversy, and so it has a very strong identification with our belief systems and those beliefs that we hold on to that maybe aren't really serving us anymore. And truthfully, we also talked about it, this is never going to be the pathway to happiness, not to true happiness. It's just really that simple. Think how wonderful the whole world would be if we weren't fighting over who's right and who's wrong, whose religion is right, whose beliefs about this or that are right, and who's wrong. Everywhere in the world, different people have different sets of beliefs based on their history, their collective history, their past experiences, what they grew up with, their religious leaders, and so on. And even if you're here in the United States, people that grew up in Africa or Asia or the Middle East have many different beliefs about things than we may have here. And then also, even in the United States, I live in California, and California definitely has its own collective consciousness, its own belief systems that are here that are very different from, say, someone who lives in Boston or New York or maybe even in the Deep South. So I want to tell you a story that I heard years ago. It's kind of a funny story, and I'm definitely going to be paraphrasing here. There was a woman, and let's just call her Harriet. Well, one night Harriet invited me to dinner, and while she was putting the roast on, I noticed that she cut off the end of the roast. And I asked her, I said, Harriet, why did you just cut off the end of that roast? And she says, well, that's the way you make a roast. That's the way I've always done it. That's the way it's done. So I thought, well, that's kind of weird. And then she told me that her mother always did it that way, and her grandmother too. So we didn't really know the reason why. I just thought, well, I certainly don't do it that way, so it doesn't make sense to me at all. Then one day we were talking about this in front of her grandmother, and she just started laughing. She just laughed her butt off. And we were like, what? What is so funny about this? And she said, honey, the reason why I cut off the end of the roast was because when I was younger, I only had a small pan, and that's the only pan I had, and the roast wouldn't fit. So I cut off the end of the roast to make it fit in the pan. Well, this is definitely a funny story, but it illustrates how beliefs and past programming can be so ingrained within us that we don't even take a minute to question whether it's valid, to question whether it even fits for us today. It's a challenge to be open-minded when we're so sure that we know what we know based on our beliefs. I have many friends who claim to be born-again Christians and are so certain that they know. Yet there's a plethora of evidence to show that there are other pathways, there are other truths, there are other documents, there are other people's experiences and other pathways that to someone else are just as valid. I could sit there and show them the proof in black and white, and they would still dismiss it, just so they could stay stuck, so they can be right, and they can stay stuck in this one way of seeing things, and this one group of beliefs that they're holding on tight to because it makes them comfortable. Certainly it is more comfortable to know what you know and stick with it. It really sucks to be wrong if you're living from ego consciousness, and that is the truth. Now, I'm not dissing Christians here. This is just one example of how people can be very rigid, very self-righteous and stubborn, really, about a belief that may or may not be valid in reality. Regardless of what spiritual path you choose to go down, if any, my point is to elevate your awareness, to choose to become conscious and be aware of the thought, the possibility that there's so much that you do not know. And the only way to find out is to keep a receptive and open-minded attitude. Be aware of what may be in fact a belief and not something that is valid and may not be serving you today in your quest for joy and success and health and wellness. You can be amazed, as I have been, by the unlimited levels of awareness and awe that you can experience when you set aside what you think you know and open to the infinite possibilities that are available to us. Dr. Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that is so true. This is Susie Bowers. Thank you for joining me today for this blog post. I hope you enjoy it. I'd love to get your feedback and comments and hear your point of view about beliefs. And if you enjoyed this, I invite you to join me for Monday Morning Power Start. Opt-in box is up on your right, where you will receive a weekly video and email that goes into more depth about these kind of topics so that you truly can create the life you desire and deserve. And if you enjoyed it too, I'd ask you to please share it on Facebook or Twitter and get it out there so other people can enjoy this too. Have a healthy and prosperous day. Thanks.